The next one
I need a nap.
after that long one. The next one is going to be David's.
Dude,
So
mine.
what are we talking about?
Well, I think what we were. So I was thinking, the other day, and I found out this particular stat, that what's happening this particular year is the Nintendo 64 is having its 21st birthday. It's old enough to drink in the States now.
I saw
Nice.
that. Yeah.
Okay. And for me, that was the console, the piece of hardware with the games that just basically that flipped the switch in my head and was like, this is what my life is about. I am a gamer. This is what I am as a person. Because I had the NES when it came out in the 80s. I had the Super Nintendo, back in the early 90s. But when the 64 came out and we finally got one, and ours came with, Mario Kart. We eventually picked up GoldenEye, and that was when I was in like 5th grade when that happened. So I was around 11, 12 years old. No, around 10 or 11. That was when I had realized that for me, like this is what I wanted to do. This was not just a hobby, And back then, gaming was still kind of considered this odd pastime that just like nerds and losers did. Like it wasn't really something you would talk with about friends, co-workers or friends at school. It's like, but there was a group of us that would get together and we would play GoldenEye together and all that. And I just thought we would talk about that moment that you guys had when it just clicked and you're just like, yes, this is who I am. This is what I want to do, and it's become a key part of who you are as a person.
Okay.
And for me, it was the 64, hands down. Games like I mentioned before, GoldenEye was a huge influence. Perfect Dark after that. The very first games that I completed 100%. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of these two. It was either Rogue Squadron, getting platinum medals on all of the maps, which was hard to do, or getting 100% in Jet Force Gemini. Finding all, I don't remember the names of them, but I always call them the Furbies because that's what they reminded me of. Because Jet Force Gemini was released around when Furbies were like new a thing. And so that's what they reminded me of, so I just called them the Furby people. And they were a pain to find, and and not accidentally kill. Yeah.
Accidentally
and
kill.
It kept track too of if you killed them. Oh. And so like you didn't want, if you killed one of them, you couldn't rescue all of them.
Oh my gosh.
So you'd have to restart then.
Yeah, and this was a game back then. I think I think it took me like a full. You gotta remember this was back then. It took me, I think, 24 hours of playtime to do that, which for me back then was a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was hoping we could discuss. I also have some numbers on the console and things like that, but I think I can get it with that when I hear about after we discuss your guys' examples. Like I said, for me, 64 hands down. Can't even that console for me just doesn't compare to how much it has influenced me as a person since then. So
you want to go first?
Okay. Well, I guess I'm second.
Yeah, I mean first of our situation.
So this is the first console that I owned, so this is the one that would probably have the most impact on me because I played a bunch of consoles before, like the Super Nintendo and the N64 and the Xbox, the original Xbox, and all that. But I never owned them, so like the only times I could play them is if I went over to my friends or whatever. So I never, even though I liked them, I couldn't just like sit down the whole day,
right, and just binge.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
A game. Yep.
And so when I was 7 and I got my Game Boy Advance from my mom, that was the first time I was able to just start playing games, and the games I got were all right at first, but the first game that I got that I like sat down and I just played on and on and on.
You
And
get
I
home from
really liked the
school,
game.
And you'd be
Yeah.
like, I have to do this.
Exactly. Well, since
Yeah.
it was portable, I could play it at school too.
I brought my stuff to school.
And so
I technically did too. In high school, I was a TA.
Yeah.
and so you just played?
I brought my Vita when I was a TA.
No, here's the thing. I was a TA because we had
Shout out to Miss Udo.
Yeah, we had a TV, an actual TV film like studio in our school because we had that's where our local channel would film from, and half of it was like traditional videotape, high 8 VHS editing equipment on it, and the other side was digital computer editing, and we didn't get into the digital computer stuff till the second half of the year. So the first half of the year, I didn't do anything except update the computers. So I would bring in my Nintendo 64 and my PlayStation 2.
Jeez. Okay.
And I was playing I would plug my PlayStation 2 into the internet, and I would play Final Fantasy 11 in class, get an A, and as long as I didn't have the screen facing so the students could watch it,
Yeah.
my teacher didn't care.
That's sweet.
But sorry, that's what that reminded you of when you said taking.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool. Was Mega Man Battle Network 3. And I was always a huge Mega Man fan, but this is probably the game that first got me into like RPGs. I am like further into Mega Man at the time too. And it was also the first game, because for me now when I play a game, if I really like a game, having 100+ hours on it isn't really like a big accomplishment. It's just like I actually sat down, took time to play the game, and I really enjoy that game.
Or go Persona.
Even though, yeah, exactly, because I have like 200, 300 hours on that game. I have a long time on that game.
Wow.
Yeah, and so. This was the first game, and this was when I was a kid. So this was like with my parents, like taking me around places, and also like telling me, "Hey, you can't play that right now," or like, "You need to go have dinner with us," or I would be grounded.
Come have dinner with us, son.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta play Mega Man.
You might have had an addiction at some point in time. But...
Exactly. So I wouldn't always like have all the time to play, and also my mind as a kid, I would lose focus easily and just go. Play it for like an hour or two, and then probably like read a book or play Legos or go outside, which I'm not saying is bad, but this was like the first game when I checked my save file, I had like 80 or 90 hours on the game, and I was like, wow, that's a lot, because it would be a lot for me as a kid to have like play a game and for it to take like 12 hours to beat or 20 hours for a game to beat. So seeing 80 hours or 90 hours on this game was like, I really enjoyed that game. I still really enjoy that game. But that was the first game and console that sort of got me into like really enjoying gaming and all that.
Yep.
Mine was the Xbox 360. Now I've had consoles beforehand, but if we're going with like what was the moment when you realized you were into it?
But this was just much more to your. Does this meant more to your life than just like some
like
little
because I mean
time killer?
I can tell you the stories of like the reason why the Game Boy Color was my first console. The Nintendo 64 I still have, and I still have all the games that I've had. And my controllers still work. Like that joystick's not broken.
It's not loose.
Yeah, a lot of people break it all the time. I didn't know that was an issue
I never
until
had one break, but I would have them get loose.
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah. They would get loose. But I've had consoles in the past. My dad had a Sega Genesis, and we've had consoles and the PlayStation, and I even had a PlayStation 2 before my 360. But it wasn't that introduction of Xbox Live that pushed it to that sense of there's a community driven behind all of this, and video games bring so many people together more than it separates people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, could take this either way of like, oh well, that's just like that's kind of a weird way to put video games. It's not like a religion or anything like that. And I'm not saying it is. What I'm saying is, I've seen people come together from video games. From all across the world, personally at PAX, and even just in little things at events that I've been a part of. And I even started an event, like a thing that had kids come together and play video games with each other. And my goal with that is to have you know, this person goes to this high school and this person goes to this high school. They both play Call of Duty. Sure, we're not playing Call of Duty today, but all they have to do is like mention like, oh, this game's really fun. You know, I would, and then they just talk about like, oh, do you play this game, this game, this game? Yeah, I play that game. I play Overwatch. Oh, sure. Here, give me your gamer tag and we can play. Like that to me was the reason why the 360 succeeded so much, was that Xbox Live connectivity, and PlayStation 3 did not have what 360 had. And right now they've kind of have it. They're still not the same as Xbox Live, in my opinion. But the 360 with Call of Duty World at War, that was the first Call of Duty game I bought, and like I did eventually get Modern Warfare. I just wasn't into it. Like I didn't like the modern like warfare stuff. I like, you know, previous historic events that actually happened.
Yeah.
And so just seeing the stories, experiencing what has happened. So when Call of Duty came out, I played the campaign and beat that, did that whole thing. And then what was cool is you could go in Call of Duty World at War and play with two people, like through the whole campaign. And so that's what I did as well. And I played with, I think I played with Christian on that. And then I remember getting the group of people in middle school to go play Call of Duty Zombies. Like that was a big deal. Another game that I've talked about several times over was Gears of War. Like the Horde mode brought a lot of us together. The multiplayer of Gears of War brought a lot of us together. Plus, there was co-op in that game. And what was really cool is that was a game that Jameson and I bonded over. My brother, who's reoccurred on the channel here and there. Like we played Gears of War together. He was always Dom. I was Marcus. Obviously, when the situation happened with Dom, a little bit of a touchy subject, but yeah, I mean, now it's not really spoiler, but Dom dies. So it's like, you know, because he's a zombie character. He's a skin you can get in the game, so it's not even a big deal. And then obviously Halo was this was the first time I ever got to play Halo, playing that with all of the Forge stuff and the, you know,
Halo 3 was your first Halo?
Yeah,
Wow.
Halo 3 was the first Halo. Well, actually technically Halo 2, because I bought my 360 and it came with Halo 2, the legendary or the collector's edition, which I believe everyone owns at this point. But yeah, Halo 2 was the first one I owned. Halo 3 was the first one I played with people. And then obviously if you want to go with story based, Red Dead Redemption was that like moment I was like, holy crap. Yeah. Like stories can happen in this game. And I just absorbed every moment of Red Dead, and I'm like, I want more from Rockstar.
Yeah.
I didn't want
that game. I didn't want that game to end.
Yeah, I didn't like GTA 4. I know it came out before then. I just wasn't a fan of GTA 4.
I didn't care.
I didn't like
fun.
Nico.
I didn't
really
care for
much.
Nico. I didn't like his brother or his cousin.
Yeah, cousin.
Yeah,
Roman.
Roman. I didn't really care for the story, but I mean, what was there was a good game.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the story could have been a little bit better.
Yeah, and then there's that hooked me on a Rockstar, of where like the story. I don't mind how long I have to wait. I will wait for a game. I want a good story. And then the achievement systems of trying to achieve things and get things done. That was the moment where I was like, okay, the 360 drew me into video games a lot, and the 360 has so much history on that I've been a part of. That's why I bought a 360 just for the sake of having a 360 because I knew the one was coming out soon, but I still bought a 360. Just because I wanted it in the collection, because the one I had originally had was an Elite, and it was on its way out. So I traded it into GameStop before it did, and I got a PS3, and then I eventually bought the Gears of War one that I always wanted. But yeah, those are quickly some of the games that I like and what brought me into the gaming stuff. And obviously now it's a little bit better than it was. But
yeah. I just wanted, because I heard the Nintendo 64 was turning 21, made me feel old, as things do nowadays.
Yeah.
And it just made me kind of think back and reflect on it, and it made me realize that for me that was the turning point for me, when like this was more than just something I do by myself. Because back then, I had the Super Nintendo, and my brother and I, we would play Donkey Kong. We really enjoyed the Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3 games, and those had some hard levels. There was always like all the Donkey Kong games have like those token 2 or 3 levels that are just stupid hard. But I was curious what your guys' like moments of like I'm now like gaming is now a part of me
Yeah.
rather than a pastime. And for me, like that was GoldenEye, the 64, Rogue Squadron, not the Lego Pod, the Star Wars,
Pod Racing.
Episode 1
Yeah.
pod racing game.
Have that game.
So did I. I got so good at that game that I had to play it with my feet for my friends to compete with me, and I
Wow.
would win.
That sounds like what we need to be playing on.
I even discovered a glitch in that game that I put on that I posted to a website that I got credited for, and I don't remember what website it was.
GameFAQs maybe. I don't know.
No, I think it was a game. I don't think it's a website that's still around anymore.
Oh, okay.
I think it was like Games Revolution.
They exist.
They still exist.
I saw a dude with a shirt on it during the PlayStation conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine with no engines. Like you can bug it to where you can have no engines. It's just like the tethers and then the little laser coil, but the engines are invisible.
Interesting. You said you had numbers?
Yeah, I do have some numbers just for fun on the 64.
Yeah, we got some time.
It was released on September 1996 in in the U.S. I should say.
World War.
Yeah, no. It was released in the U.S. in September 1996. Remained on retail shelves until 2003.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know. That one that would maybe just go like, whoa, because that was like right before the Wii came out. The GameCube had been out.
No, the Wii came out in 2005, right?
It came out way later, I think.
Yeah, 2005 or 2006.
Was
because
it?
2003
But
was still
But that's still a really long
But the
time.
Xbox is out, yeah.
Yeah, like that's a long time. That's a long time on that it was on the shelf.
Yeah, it's still really long.
It sold. I thought this was interesting too because normally Nintendo products tend to do, or I should say Japanese products tend to do a little bit better in Japan than anywhere else.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see that these numbers were so far apart. Now I wasn't expecting the Japanese sales to beat the American sales, but I thought it was going to be closer. Like they sold 5.5 million units in Japan compared to 20.6 million units in just the U.S. And I thought that number would have been a little bit closer. That's what surprised me.
Yeah.
For the N64?
For the Nintendo 64, yeah. The numbers for the sales in the U.S. across everything for the Nintendo 64.
They also did get the expansion stuff.
What's that?
We never got expansion
No,
stuff.
we didn't. Like,
so that it may have survived it a little bit more, like made it linger around.
Super Mario 64, #1 selling game for it.
Not a shock.
It came packaged with most of the bundles.
I didn't get it in mine.
Mine didn't come with it. Mine came with Mario Kart.
I got Pokemon Stadium because mine's the Pikachu one.
Yeah. It sold 11.6 million copies. The top 5 selling games: Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, GoldenEye, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and then Smash Brothers.
None of those shocked me.
Yeah.
And they've all been remade.
Out of that list, according to the source they use, which is just Wikipedia, the only ones that were sold with a console, bundled like with the console in the box from that list, was GoldenEye and Super Mario 64.
GoldenEye was a bundle? Oh.
I believe, yeah, I think I do remember seeing that.
That's interesting. Wonder how that box looked.
And I just thought that that was pretty neat. And
that is pretty cool.
That's pretty good for a console back
64-bit console.
Yeah, for 64-bit,
surviving against DVDs because at the time there's PlayStation.
The PlayStation was playing DVDs and CDs. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even when 2003 is what I mean. Like those were.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I thought that's just a system that for me will always always kind of be like, I don't want to say on this pedestal for me, but it'll always have this like special place for me.
Yeah.
And I still have mine. It still works. It's that it's in my I think my parents. I think
mine still works.
The guest room. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I was just gonna say I think the N64 was the first console I played.
Yeah.
Oh really? Yeah. I mean, it was.
I think for your guys' generation, yeah, because I'm like
I think SNES was mine that I played. Owned.
See, I think
I don't remember it
because you were born in when
95.
Yeah. So I think like because when it came to me, I was born in 85, so that was like not.
I still played games though.
Right.
Like I had a Game Boy.
But like
too.
we didn't get like an NES till like 89.
Yeah, we were.
So,
well, we also lived in Idaho, so.
So did I.
Well, I mean, like our. Oh, okay.
At the time.
I was gonna say like our budget, our dollar goes a little bit longer than Oregon and Washington.
Yeah.
So.
No. When we got our NES, we were living in Idaho at the time.
Oh, there you go.
When I was in 89.
Some cold weather up there.
We were living at the base of a ski resort, so we got like 6 feet of snow.
Nice. So good time
outside
to play
of
games. That's video game weather right there.
Outside of Sandpoint, Idaho.
Nice.
But yeah, like like you were probably around the same age I was when we got an NES. Like were you around like 4 or 5?
Yes.
Yes.
Or when I got a 64.
Oh no, I'm like
when I got a Game Boy Color I was like 2 or 3.
Oh man, I didn't.
I don't know
well,
what I was
they weren't
doing.
even-
It was Pokemon, man. The craze was different.
I had I think
I also got a Tickle Me Elmo when they were first out. I don't know how my parents got that.
I
I
had
don't
a-
even know why my parents bought me stuff.
I had a My Buddy and some Hulk Hogan action figures, some wrestling action.
Did you ever get any of those back?
Oh no, those are long gone. Those are long gone. Like the old like Hogan, like the old wrestling figures where they were like this,
Yep.
and like stiff.
Yep, and they're like rubber.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
have.
like a hard rubber. Yeah. But yeah, that's it for that.